basically machine learning is most of the times knowing what will not work. Because that's where you don't want to spend an week and find out, okay, this was not known not to work.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to the Tech Guide podcast, where we give actual advice to those wanting to break into tech or are looking for their next gig. We have Prabhat Agarwal on the podcast today to talk about being a senior machine learning engineer at Pinterest. So excited to talk about his background. Prabhat, thank you so much for being here. So excited to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting. Really excited for it.
Yes. And I want to talk about growing up, because you grew up in India. Yeah. And then you came here in 2019 to attend a school called Stanford, which people may have heard about before. But take me to the moment when you found out you were getting into Stanford. This is obviously one of the most prestigious colleges or universities in the United States. And this obviously had been a big deal. Take me to that moment, find out you got into Stanford for a master's degree.
Yeah, I guess it was very surprising. I was totally not expecting to get into Stanford. I guess I had a previous admit for CMU. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's because CMU was like CMU and Stanford were like top two. So like, okay, I've got it, and I'm definitely not getting in Stanford, all like mentally prepared. And then like come March 15, and this I get like mail, okay, you got into Stanford. Like, okay, this is definitely a shock, because I didn't even consider applying because Stanford has like the earliest deadline for applications. I was like, I'm not ready, but my sister forced me to apply. So yeah, thanks to her. And then, yeah, pretty excited to
I love that. Was there like a big celebration when you found out? Because obviously, like, this is Stanford University. This is like a huge.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. At that time, I was in Bangalore. So I was, we went out with friends and celebrated. And then when we went home, then we celebrated with family.
I love that. I kind of want to talk about getting to Stanford a little bit more. What were some of the ways if someone's thinking about wanting to get like their master's degree or something, they can get into a university like Stanford? What were some of like the key things that you got right in this application process?
I think Stanford has just like, I was doing master's in CS. So they have like just one broad program for CS, where everyone is just admitted. Like, whereas like some schools have like more specialized programs that will be research one, there will be like industry one, and then some in like language, robotics, but Stanford just have like one bucket. That's why like there are like different profiles and different ways you can get in, as than like they mean, well, one thing being things like, so like just comparing with like different people who were in my batch, like in the same year, everyone had like different strengths, a different kind of portfolio, but everyone got in because like it's what basically makes you unique, and basically you need to convince that you're a fit for the program and you can succeed in the program, because they're looking to, like, they're investing in your success. It's not like they're trying to sue you away or something like that. So they're trying to get you into a program where you can be successful. So that's their judging. So for me in particular, I guess some of the things that worked in my favor was my undergrad performance. So I had like good GPA in my undergrad college, and also had like done some projects around like when I was like research projects in like machine learning and AI, which is the field I was applying to. So that helped, because then I was able to get like strong LORs from both my professors at my undergrad university and also from like some industry and academia people who are working in this area, who could like attest to what I was writing. And I guess some of the other stuff is like having a very tight packet. Like, so in general, like we say admission packets, because it consists of like resume, your SOP, and then also your referrals or references. So in general, it's advisable that you tell a story. Yeah. Stanford doesn't dictate, like some schools take like personal ones, but for master, Stanford is like more of a professional SOP. So you tell like what all you have done, what you have learned, and what you why do you think like masters is a good program to continue that learning journey, or whatever your goals are. So that's like, I guess, how we structure. And the idea is that even the same project is backed. If you talk about something that you have done, it's backed everywhere in your profile. So let's just take one example. I did something XYZ. In my SOP, I'll tell like what my approach were, what I learned. And then someone like you work with a professor, so he's writing your referral letter. So for that, he'll write, or they'll write like how the students stood out for that project. So their perspective, but on the same project. And in your resume, you will tell the quantitative achievements that you got out of project. So basically, everything is like should combine. It should not be like you talk about something else in your resume, your professor is talking about something else, and then your SOP is totally disjoint. This is like a very standard advice I have got, and I also like always give like for people applying that it should be coherent. Like when someone reads, they should be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. He's talking about what he learned. People are talking about how he's best than everyone they have worked with, and resume or seeing what actual gains you or whatever you achieved.
Interesting. Talk to me about like creating that story. How many times did you get that revised so it was like super like easy to understand? Talk to me like through that process of actually crafting the story of like what you've done before.
Yeah, I guess it's never done. Like even if I
That's fair. That's fair.
open my SOP today, I'll be like, oh, I can change this and I can
Yep,
make it
yep,
better.
yep.
So it's definitely never done. But great piece of advice is to like ask different people to read it through, like people who are technical. So basically in your background to read that, and also people who are not technical. So it's a generally a good advice to not make your SOP very technical, to like make it more simpler that more people can understand. You can like call out the technical parts in your resume probably, but in general, because like I don't 100% know how the admission process works, but in general, it's like a big community, all of who are not very, suppose you're working in a very niche field in systems engineering or AI, they don't know all the terms of it. So if it's like a technical jargon, they might not understand it, they might not be able to appreciate the so you don't want to lose out to that. So that's one of the things. So like I asked my cousins to read who are like totally different, and they'll say, okay, this is where I lost you. So that then I also ask my friends who are in the same area who have worked with me to read, so that they can be, okay, here you're not talking enough, it's like too general. So that's where you can like balance it out. So, and generally it's a good idea to like keep a month or even more than 1 month, like 2 months or so, to like start and prepare, because dependent, right? And not everyone is available to review it as soon as you give it. And use writing assistant tools, like nowadays ChatGPT is available. In my days it was not, so I used Grammarly a lot to like see like how does it look good or something like that, because
I feel
some of the advices, I guess.
I feel like I feel like the advice that was really cool that like stood out to me was like getting people that are non-technical to review these papers, because I feel like that also adds like another element, but also having people that are technical, just be like, oh, you need to hit on this a little bit more, but also write in a way that non-technical people can like read it and understand it is super important.
I guess that balance and that flow. So every paragraph should flow, like there should be a flow, like you're reading a story. It should not be disjoint. Happened. It should be a flow, like, okay, you're growing in you're telling your growth about how you have grown over your achievements. So that's very important, because it's a 2-page thing. People get bored, and I guess people are not spending more than 3 minutes 4 minutes on one thing. So you need to make that impact.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's get in and get out type of work, and then you're combining that story with also like a great letter of recommendation with like research that you've done to actually get into Stanford then. Yeah. So I do want to talk about once you do get into Stanford. I mean, I know it's 3 or 4 years late here, but congratulations on that. But let's talk about like some of the resources at Stanford that they gave you to succeed. Can you talk about the master's program in itself? Like, what were some of the resources they gave you that like really stuck in your mind?
I guess, so coming from like India, where we have like doing my undergrad in India, where there's different, like it's a little bit different culture of how the schools work there, versus here there's like a little bit of culture shock, as like a lot of freedom to you. And most of the courses at Stanford are like project based. So like actual course, at least in the grad courses, like I guess undergrads, they still might be more school like work based or assignment based. So one is like you have assignments every 2 weeks. So the focus is on you to take the front, take your own learning in your hands. And they give like they're huge resources. Like each course will have like a appropriate amount of like teaching assistants. The professor has office hours. The professor will reply to mails. All the courses are recorded so that you attend a lecture. But even if you want to go back to something, and I think for me at least, I like the most was the assignments and the projects part, because the assignments, you have done a lecture, it's okay, but then the assignments actually explore a lot of parts which cannot be covered in a lecture. The problems will be there that too. So the culture was like you don't need to solve everything on your own. It's the something the so basically, I guess this is what I understand. Like the aim of the professors was to help you get to solve the problem with whatever help. So even, I guess because Stanford has this honor code in general that you can even collaborate with others and discuss problems uh, for your assignments with other even friends, TAs, and TAs will also help. You just write whoever helped you, and it was not like taken okay, you have taken help on this question, so you are not graded well. So it's basically you do it on your own. It's not that you just wrote everything in the discussion and regurgitated it out in your assignment. So there was the rule that you discuss how much you want and then write it on your own, like solve it on your own again. So if you're stuck on a problem, go to a friend, form a discussion group, solve it. But just don't remember it and right again solve it on your own after having understood from that discussion group. So that is what I think is like focus on learning rather than grades or not going into that rat race, being more learning oriented. And projects then help you actually do something with that, whatever you have learned. You like implement something, even if it's smaller, you implement that. And all the resources for that, like for AI, like GPU is a thing that you need to train. So they'll like provide all the courses are like either Microsoft Cloud credits or Google Cloud credits, or there were like internal systems that were made accessible. So basically, like a lot of support to get to learning, and most of the professors were interested to for you to learn rather than grades. I guess very few professors cared about grade, and like so that was, I guess, one of the coolest thing that I have. And the campus is like way beyond beautiful. Like I guess I cannot describe the campus enough. Like because few years I spent there was during COVID because I was doing my masters from 19 to 21. But oh god, the campus is and it's really amazing. And I'll have to say like Stanford made it feel so safe during the COVID. During so like the support that they were provided during the COVID was also quite great. So yeah,
that's incredible. I love one that you talked about, like how the professors push you to collaborate with like other people, but just like give them credit on it. But I think that's awesome. Where it's like where they're not being like, no, you need to figure out this yourself. It's going to other people and helping that have them figure it out, but also then implementing it yourself. I feel like that's really important when you're learning something like this.
Yeah, I guess that's the real world. Like no one works in a silo. Like everyone works in collaborative. So that also builds that collaborative nature. Like gives you because finally in industry or even wherever you go, you have to collaborate with people. Yeah, after all, social people.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit. So you were at Stanford, you got your master's there, and then you break into a company called Pinterest, which is a great company. This was your first like machine learning gig. Talk to me about how this opportunity with Pinterest came up and some of the ways you stood out in the interview process.
So this is for internships, I guess. My one of the professors I was working with on like I guess this is a class on graphs. Basically the neural networks with graphs. So Yuriskovich, and he was like a chief scientist at Pinterest while back then. So he recommended me to like try out that internship. So yeah, so that's another part of like how supportive the atmosphere is. So yeah, then I tried it out. The interviews were a little bit different for this machine learning role. So it was like first was just like a ML design question where we just discussed the problem they were actually working on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what they're doing, what my ideas, what I could do. So it was like a very interesting conversation and then like some standard interviews. And then, yeah.
Can you share some of the projects you worked on as machine when you were an intern there? Can you talk to us a little bit about like those projects that you did work on and have exposure to?
Yeah, sure. So during my internship, I was working on something called like spam classification.
Okay.
So this is where like spam is everywhere in any internet. So the idea was like, we need to detect spammy users, also like other spammy content that exists on the platform. So I was working on to see if we can use like relationship between different spammers, like so position it as a graph problem. So we design a graph that okay, this user is related to this content and other users are related to this content and this content is related to other content.
Yep.
So and then like mix all of this together and see if we can learn across these kind of propagate information on this graph and then learn a better classifier for users. So, and in general, how spam occurs is like users collude, right? Our system accounts collude. websites collude and those. So you can like extract a lot of this information out of it. So and after I joined, we were also able to get like a paper published on the same idea. And so,
That is so cool. So you guys were like detecting like spam users on the Pinterest platform.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. I feel like in social media, like in general, I feel like there's so many like spam users. So I'd be curious, like how you guys like approach that problem to like figure out like who is a spam user and like who isn't.
I guess it's a very hard problem, to be honest.
For sure.
Yes. The main reason is that like there are a set of users who are active and they are not spammy. It's okay. Those are always done with. But then there's a huge intersection or like in behavior. Basically, what you can classify is only based on behavior, right? How they are behaving on your platform. And the behavior of spam users and the behavior of very low activity users are very similar. So like, for example, a spammer will come and do a lot of activity on a platform and go away because they just created that account for that spam application. But like a non-causal user or like very casual user will also like once in a month open the app, do some activity and then go away for another month or so. So this is where I guess the most challenge occurs. And at Pinterest, the basic target was that we want to detect as many spam users as possible, but with the limit that we don't classify a lot of the real users as spammy. So like the false positive rate was a metric we actually cared about more than actual precision. So like, because the best classifier for spam user is that you say everyone is a spam user. So you caught everyone. You call it the spam users, but that is not a good user experience. So I guess that's one of the things too. You have to like select the best correct metric that you're targeting based on the problem. So here, like we selected that we want to reduce the false positive rate as much as possible, even if the precision does not go up. Like even if you're not detecting more spam users, if you're reducing the amount we are misdetecting real users, that's also a win, basically.
Yeah, I feel like that's like such a big problem to solve, especially at a social media company. But it's also identifying, I know not everyone's a spam user, but it's also identifying those low activity people with spam users and using machine learning to like figure that out.
And there are like a lot of other controls that go on beyond that like a lot of things that go on with the model to make sure that it's a overall positive experience for both users and not spammers. So
yeah, that's awesome. So you were an intern there for about 4 months or so, and then you actually got a full-time offer to come back to Pinterest as a machine learning engineer. What were some of the ways that you stood out during your internship where it made it a no-brainer for them to like bring you back? Like, what are some of the ways you stood out?
Yeah, I guess a few of the things that I think I did good was like one was around like building relationships and communicating about my problem, collaborating with the broader team, asking correct questions.
Yeah.
And then also like one of the things that the HR team also called out, like we had something called like a project doc that we submit as part of internships. I made sure it was like very well written, had a lot of references, everything is like structured, timed, like how much time took on what were the problems, how we solved it. So those documentation efforts are like very well received. And just being in depth with the problem to solve and making sure that I understand what problem I'm solving and just not like, okay, this is something we can do, but actually like trying to go like, okay, we can do something, but like what is the problem we are trying to solve? Doing a lot of literature research to actually look like, okay, how have people approached this problem? And then bringing back that knowledge and saying, okay, this is a summary, we can do some of these stuff, and then actually going into the data and analyzing results, and rather than saying, okay, this is the metric, this moved, didn't move. So I guess that's some of the things that I guess that work. So for example, during my internship, we found out that one of the metrics we were using was not that sensitive. So, and it's probably not capturing the actual production performance that well. So then we worked on like, see if we can improve that metric and then do well on that. So that's, I guess, being comprehensive and asking questions, I guess, like owning that part of work that you're doing is generally well received.
Yeah, I feel like that's asking questions, like the correct questions, is just like a great way to stand out. People are like, oh, like I don't want to ask like stupid questions, or I don't want to ask too many questions. But I feel like that just, one, it helps you in your career because it helps you better understand like, oh, what am I actually working on? Or like, what's the answer to this problem? And it just shows your curiosity to like employers to say like, oh, this person actually is interested in this work. So yeah, I feel like someone young in their career, just those
Yeah.
curiosity and asking questions is
I
huge.
guess owning the problem is, I think, which I tell my interns nowadays, that even if you're working with a mentor, they
Mm.
assign you a project to own that problem. That okay, feel that okay, you are a part of the team and you own that part because you know the best. So get that ownership and then work with that, because once you feel that ownership, you do a lot of things differently rather than okay pinging for everything. The mentor, okay, I have done this next. What to do next? So
Yeah.
that relationship break, that I guess that's quite always helpful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like taking ownership over projects
Yeah.
that you're given.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's also another huge one because like I know there's been like projects in my life that like I've been like assigned to, and it's just like taking complete ownership of like everything that needs to be done, like following up with people that needs to be followed up with.
Yeah.
And when you have that ownership, that responsibility over a project, just young your career, that's like a huge thing because
Yeah.
it really speeds up your development
Yeah.
and shows what you're
Definitely.
serious. I also want to talk a little bit more about the future of machine learning. I know you're very passionate about like the subject. What are some like industries or usage cases of machine learning that you're super excited for in the future?
I guess health is definitely one, which is like super exciting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess there's a set of people who are excited about like how Gen AI can replace anything, but for me, borrowing a term from like one of the Karpathi's tweet is like, instead of like saying artificial uh, intelligence, like intelligence assistance. Like I
Mm.
think a lot of problems, like the state that today AI is in, and I guess as it will be in like few years of development, is like they're becoming very strong assistant for
Yeah.
like a lot of different problems. Like I guess for at least for me, I use ChatGPT a lot, like GPT-4 or ChatGPT for like a writing assistant,
Yep.
because it helps like I can give my thoughts and then it can like help brainstorm. Like Copilot is another project where it's like coding assistant, and then I
Yep.
guess people who are into like art or like design, they use like these kind of vision image generation models like DALI or seem to like get assistance. So I guess that's where I see the most utility of it, and I guess that's in healthcare is like, and mostly like now scientists are using as like to discover molecules, discover proteins. So like again, assistant. It will give you something. The verification is on to you, but it will at least explore the space and give you a few options that might be good, and then you can explore. Like similarly, like for example, analyzing a X-ray report, it can do the initial analysis and show okay, these are the things that looks okay, doesn't look okay, but again, that reduces the time a doctor takes on
Yeah.
one report, and that kind of increases the efficiency of the human. So it's basically increase your efficiency, you can serve better rather than having a bot do everything for. So I guess that's the place I see. Wherever you see that part where like AI is an assistant, it can help. Even like in tutoring, it can help reduce the load of tutors, and then
Yeah.
they can serve more and serve efficiently, like especially in like third world countries where uh, there's a huge mismatch gap between like student to teacher ratios, and there's like lack of resources there. Then it can increase the efficiency of the existing tutors so they can cater to more people. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are like some off the top of my mind.
Yeah. There are so many usage cases for it, and yeah, where I'm most excited for, like AI and machine learning is in like the healthcare field. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and so like there's just like so many like different usage cases just for my own self. But if you're thinking about like cancer patients or like
Yeah,
X-rays, as you said, I feel like there are so many usage cases for like machine learning or artificial intelligence
yeah,
to be used. So that's what I'm hoping to see the most in like 2024 and 2025 is the
yeah.
adoption of AI in healthcare.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, yeah. I guess for protein folding and stuff, there are like very exact models nowadays. And then that helps a lot of scientists. So it doesn't discover a new medicine for you, but makes that process easier and maybe faster for people who are actually working in that area.
Yeah, I think it's I like the words that you use too is like AI like assistance basically because like I don't know like do you think there will be a time? I'm sure there will be, but like what like do you think there's a time when like AI will like completely like replace humans and like our work? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But at least in the near future, there will be very, very strong assistance to do a lot of
Yeah.
things and makes us a lot of efficient and give us time to do
Yeah.
more things.
Yeah. Is there a particular usage case for AI that you use in like your day to day?
Yeah, I guess Copilot is like coding assistant is like one of the things, because there are like a lot of mundane things that has to be done when you do coding.
Yeah.
And it's like you're writing the same line, you have to slightly reformat and write it. AI can do it, can help you brainstorm test cases, which is, I guess, another interesting use case. It's not generating the test cases. I guess maybe there are some models, but at least what I have used, I haven't seen like someone can generate good test cases, but you can brainstorm, okay, these are the test cases I should test, and then you can write those tests. Again, the use of like another copilot. So that's where I think it's one of the main use case, and another is the writing assistant, because I hate writing for some reason.
Yeah, I just understand.
uh, so to basically tell what I'm thinking, that okay, I need to write for this item. If you just give that, it will give you the garbage. But then I say, okay, these are the things I'm thinking to cover. These
Yeah.
are the bullet points I have. Then it comes up with something. I choose whatever I like, maybe some words, some sentence structure, rephrase it. Okay, I like this one. This part is missing. Can we go over that? And so that's how like I use like lines, maybe some words, some sentence structures, some paragraph structures, and then that's like one use case. Yeah, that's I guess as of now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I use. Like I use ChatGPT probably the most to help with like my writing. Like I'll plug in like a whole script I have or something and basically just ask it to like rewrite it, make it sound like more professional or funny
Yeah.
or more conversational.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I actually do enjoy to write, but that's been a really big usage case for me as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. So we are winding down on time here. I just want to ask a little, like one more question. Like, you think of advice you'd want to give to like your interns or someone that's new to machine learning? If you could say just like one piece of advice to really do well in your career and have a successful career, what would that piece of advice be?
I guess if it has to be one, I have to say it has to be look into your data,
Okay.
because I guess when people come into new machine learning, they think, okay, I can take the strongest algorithm, strongest stuff there, and it can work. But I guess 1 month of model tuning and hyperparameter tuning, the increment that you get, probably you can get like 10 times that if you spend that month on cleaning your data or getting like better data sets for your model. So that's, I guess, one number one advice to always keep in mind that ML is not just about fancy models. It's about, and I guess having some basic knowledge of the maths behind it, um, so that you understand better what are the restrictions of each design choice you are making. Because every model choice you make, there will be some restriction and some powers that the model have, like some expressive power. So you need to be aware of that. And so understanding a little bit of the background behind that is, I guess, important, because otherwise you are just going blind and doing a random search, which will yield you results. I'm not saying it won't, but to be really successful and be recognized like as a go-to person for ML expertise, you need to be depth, like have like in-depth knowledge of like what you're working on. And basically machine learning is most of the times knowing what will not work. Because that's where you don't want to spend an week and find out, okay, this was not known not to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's, I guess, the thing. It comes as you build, but having that basically curiosity to understand the actual math behind it and actual science behind it is, I guess, necessary. So all the most successful ML people I have worked with have like a very strong understanding of the modeling behind, like, again, figure out, okay, what is the maths behind this. So
Yeah.
don't have to understand to write a backprop, but still understand there's a backpropagation happening.
I like that. I have to ask a follow-up question to make
Yeah,
it
sure.
not working on something that won't work. How do you identify early on that something won't work when it comes to machine learning?
I guess this comes mostly from experience. As you
Okay.
work on a lot of things, you, okay, this kind of works. This is bound to fail. Like, for example, like if you uh, take like a small data set of 1,000 examples and then train a billion parameter model on top, it's not, because it will be overfit to it, so it won't work out. For example, if your model data set, like there's a class imbalance, or your representation is not correct, it won't work. If your feature in your train and test, like inference time is different, this data distribution is different, it won't work. So these are like some of the things that are there in literature. There are like huge mathematical proofs that proves that this won't work. But knowing that is also like very important. And that's how, like, comes with experience. So yeah, do solve the problem, just don't read it. take any problem, build models, tinker around, and read code. Right.
I love that.
Many people don't do that. Like when we learn English, we read a lot and write less. But when people learn to code, or do they write more, read less, which is, I think, where I guess the limitation is. The more code you read, the more models you see. You know, like what tricks people are using, or how people solve a certain problem, and how people make certain things efficient. So,
well, if someone is wanting to connect with you, this was awesome advice on machine learning. I learned a ton. I'm not even in the field. So, Prabhat, I appreciate you so much. If someone did want to connect with you, where can people find you and connect with you?
I guess LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So yeah, Prabhat Agarwal. Pinterest, I think you should be able to find. Not a lot of Prabhats there, so that's nice.
Yeah. And everyone, those links will be down below. Prabhat, thank you so much for joining us. You were awesome on today's show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting. Yeah, hope everyone had something to learn.